Welcome back to The Ed Show. Thanks for watching tonight. For more on Matt Lauer's exclusive interview with Robert Bates, I'm joined for the discussion tonight with Paul Henderson, veteran prosecutor and also legal analyst. Also with us tonight, Thomas Mesro, criminal defense attorney. Gentlemen, great to have you with us. Mr. Henderson, you first. From a prosecutor's standpoint, did this interview help or hurt Mr. Bates as you see it?
Well, it's going to hurt him specifically from a criminal perspective. All of these admissions and statements of contrition are going to come into the case where he's making admissions and talking about being sorry. And I'll tell you what's going to be relevant as he's describing and showing what he did on the scene. All of that is going to be reviewed and come into whatever criminal charges are pending against him in front of a jury. And I'll tell you, from a legal perspective, the two issues that are going to be most important in this case are the issues of what his training was or could have been, and then also what his assignment was. So by putting him in the violent crime division in that area, even though he said he wasn't supposed to be doing anything, he knew or should have known that the use of deadly force was possible because he was armed with both a taser and a gun. And so all of these things are going to be presented to a jury. All of these things are going to go and speak to the likelihood that he knew or should have known that an accident could have happened, and they'll speak directly to what his training would have been or should have been in the use of deadly force as he's acting as an agent of law enforcement, and it's not going to matter that he was just a volunteer.
Mr. Mesro, from a defense attorney standpoint, this is a rather unusual strategy to do an interview on national television. Is this a gamble?
It is a gamble, but I think it was a successful one for the defense. The greatest thing this defendant has going for him is who he is as a person, how he's lived his life, and what his goals and intentions were when he volunteered to help the police department. This is not your typical criminal case. This is a 73-year-old man with no criminal history who's been a good citizen, who donated his time and money to the police department. He didn't create this situation. A criminal who was trying to sell illegal guns to an undercover agent did create the situation. Now, I agree with the family of Eric Harris. I think there should be an independent investigation. However, this man is going to come across as someone who never intended to commit a crime, did the best he could to help the police department, was under tremendous stress, had every reason to think that the person he was chasing was armed, and I don't think a jury's going to convict him. I don't think a jury's going to want to make him a felon for the rest of his life.
You know, I just don't disagree with that. I don't think that those good intentions are going to bring Mr. Harris back. He is dead because of the actions that were taken on that day, and his good intentions are directly going to be compared with the training that he received or should have received in comparison with the deadly use of force that he displayed on that day, and it was just inappropriate in this case, and this is why it's charged as a second degree, as a reckless mistake that he should have known better and should have used better care, because at the end of the day, there is still someone dead, and the state is not going to take that as an excuse to mitigate his behavior beyond what the charges are to get him out of culpability in this case.
The state may not, but a jury is likely to.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Well, Mr. Mesro, I mean, this is part of the defense, this interview today, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
The mission had to be go out and show the country that you're really a good guy.
Absolutely, and I think the character of the defendant, I think the way he's lived his life, the people who support him, and his intentions and goals in helping the police department are going to help him escape a criminal conviction. There may be a civil suit for negligence against the police department that will likely be successful, but convicting him of a felony, 12 jurors beyond a reasonable doubt, I don't see it. I'd like to defend this one.
All right. You'd like to defend this one. Okay, what about, this was very interesting in the interview, when he stood up and showed where his taser gun was and where his firearm was. From a prosecutor's standpoint, Mr. Henderson, what do you do with that?
Well, you'll notice when he was talking about that, he referenced specifically where it was in relationship to his training. So again, it's going to open the door to have that discussion about what his training was or should have been as they're training him. But all of that's going to be relevant as they try and define whether or not this was a valid mistake and whether or not it was recklessness, whether or not it was negligence, and whether or not those mistakes rose to the level of criminal culpability to hold him accountable for the subsequent death that occurred because of his actions. So that's why it's all going to matter. And you're going to hear a lot of discussion about exactly how the accident took place. You see he's already making these statements publicly, but this is going to be absolutely relevant as soon as it comes in front of a jury as well.
And Mr. Mesereau, your impression of him standing up, demonstrating where the taser gun was and where his firearm was and how he made a mistake. And he also made reference that there were other shootings that have taken place in this country that he had researched, that he's not the only one that's ever done something like this. What about that?
Look, this is not the South Carolina case where a police officer pulled over a man for a busted taillight and then in a cold-blooded, premeditated, intentional fashion executed him. This is a very different set of facts. And I think a jury is going to probably relate to someone who did his best, came right out and said, I made a mistake, has never denied it. Mistakes don't necessarily mean felony conduct. That's going to be the issue.
Okay. Paul Henderson, Tom Mesereau, enjoyed the discussion. Appreciate your time tonight. Thanks so much. The Republican Kingmaker.